And that one. Oh, I need this one. So, where did everything go? Oh, okay. All right. I think وشقينا يا هذا. How's everybody? Good afternoon. Good evening. Having one accent. I hope everybody. How are you? Satahay. All right. So this time I thought we'd try something different, right? And have like a program that is actually structured, and we're going to talk about like specific things. So excuse the studio. The studio is a work in progress. So I'm working on it and I'm putting things together so that I can have a home studio that's going to be visually appealing and allow me to do what I need to do. All right. So we're gonna call this Udgoon's Weekly 7, right? And this is the inaugural Weekly 7. So we're gonna hit 7 topics, and at the end we're gonna circle back to one topic. All right. All right, let's get started. So we're going to start first with what has been going on social media the last couple of days. So we saw this advert from SNTV looking for what shall we say, a 25-year-old. Oh, the word that was used was hubqadle. And there was a lot of social media outrage about it, and rightfully so. The idea that women are being hired for their looks is something that just needs to be done away with. It's not something that's acceptable at all. This was a position for a news anchor job. Okay, so obviously you want somebody that can do the job, right? And if looks were important, then you would expect them to have the same standards for the male anchors as well, right? But if you are familiar with SMTV, as I am, then you would know that that's not the case. All right. So, we're not going to say somebody is not the best looking, right? But the idea is that they're not upholding the same standards for both men and women. And that is a problem. So that's sexism. And sexism is a serious problem. And specifically, we're talking about SNTV located in Somalia, right? But as a good sister of mine who is here, Zainab, thank you very much for being here, has noticed or has made a note of is that it's prevalent in all Somali territories. We have a problem with sexism, right? We value women for their looks and their childbearing abilities, right? And once a woman no longer has those looks or childbearing abilities, then she is no longer valuable and she's not an important part of our society. And that's something that needs to change. So there needs to be a systemic change in how we hire women for these jobs. So the idea is that if there was a women executive at SNTV, this kind of ad would probably not have been approved. What do you guys think? I think if there was a woman at the seat of the table, she would have been like, I don't think, guys, we should go with this. This is kind of sexist. I wouldn't like this at all. So love you too. The next thing on the Weekly 7 is the movie of the year. Movie of the year for us Somalis, okay? Dalin Yoro. I hope you've all watched the movie. I will share the link again every day if that's what it takes, guys, for you to watch it. I want you to watch this movie. Lula Ali Ismail, she's a female director, and this is the first feature film in Djibouti. She literally put Djibouti on the cinematic map. Nagnol. Daliyara is about youth. So it's from the perspective of three 18-year-old girls navigating life, love, friendships, and the relationships and the plans that they have for their future. It's a coming of age film that is so important, and it's universal enough to be watched by anybody, but it's set in Djibouti and they speak French and Somali, and it has touched my heart. So it's a movie that talks about the lived experiences of Djibouti youth. And it's such an important film for the Horn that it doesn't focus on the many evils associated with the Horn of Africa, like terrorism and piracy. This was just a regular universal story from youth that anybody can relate to. And for that, I would like to also let you know there's going to be a live here soon with the director. So if you have questions for the director, please send those questions, okay? If you have questions for Lula Ali Ismail about her movie, please send questions. Send questions. We're going to have a live with Lula Ali Ismail as well. All right, so that was a high note, a really sad note, a low note for us Somalis this week. We lost a musical legend, Ahmed Ismail Hussein, also known as Hudaydi. Allah naxariisto. He was a king of Oud. He was an important musician. And I was so sad personally to hear, as you guys know, how much I love music, and to see a Somali musician be a musician and be an artist to the very end. That was just so beautiful and magical to me. He's a very special person. And be praying for him. His nickname is from where his grandfather used to sail to Hudayda in Yemen. He grew up in Aden, Yemen, where his father worked as a police sergeant. A little backtrack, he was born in April 15 of 1928 in the coastal town of Berbera, which is now Somaliland. He was taught by Abdullahi Qarsha, an also prominent oud player. He tried to keep alive Funka Somalida and was a very, very vocal critic of the new age music where there's a lot of playback rather than any live music. He was a big fan of live music. His biggest love was the oud, and he said, if I see it anywhere, I have to play it. He said there was no contradiction between being a Muslim and being a musician. He said he worshiped his creator and he loved his music, and those two things were not contradictory. Allah naxariisto Hudaydi. That's a very, very huge loss for us as Somalis, very huge loss. All right, so the next thing that we have concerns mostly Americans. Bernie Sanders' campaign was quite monumental. This week he is suspending his campaign but remains on the ballot. He was the first socialist Democrat to make it this far in the campaign. He rallied the youth and the progressives with a call for Medicare for all and free college tuition. And you guys, I have talked about college education and the debt that I have incurred many times. And, I like to say that it was worth it because I really do value education. But in light of what the other developed countries in the world are doing, America, step it up, okay? We need free college education. Bernie also raised a lot of money for the COVID crisis. So far, he's raised $2 million. Sadly, we have Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee. I don't know really if it's been confirmed for sure, but that's what it looks like. All right. Speaking of challenges that we're facing during COVID, next thing is the mental health during COVID. Mental health has really been exacerbated by staying indoors. I personally am a person who likes to be outdoors. I really, really like people. I used to think I didn't, and I was like, surprise, you do like people. I guess I was just overstimulated by being a teacher and being around a lot of people during the day that I just really yearned for and just wanted to be by myself at the end of the day. But now that I'm stuck indoors, I miss my kids so much. If you are watching this, I miss you so much. And it's been really challenging mental health wise to stay indoors and not have activity, right? And not have that sensory stimulation like from other people's energy. So I was thinking what kind of access to psychologists that people have, how what kind of like access to services to psychologists and other mental health services that people have, how are they navigating mental health during this really, really trying time where we are literally watching the world be on fire, figuratively. How are we maintaining our sanity even when there are some of us like myself that are still are able to stay indoors. Many people are not. So what are people doing to maintain their sanities? If you have suggestions, please write it in the comments. Some people are exercising inside the house. Some people are making sure that they do Zoom calls and Facebook Lives with friends and family everywhere. So tell me what you are doing to stay sane during these really, really trying times. Another thing with the COVID is what kind of community outreach and resources are available to people? How are the Somali community helping those who are at most risk of COVID-19? There are some complaints from Minnesota and social media of the older population still accessing Dahabshil in droves. Is it a lack of civic education, or is there some cultural disconnect happening between what a pandemic requires for us to manage it and the pull, right? That pull that people feel towards taking care of people that they love that are still in our homeland. And I can understand both. I can understand the need to take care of the people that you love, but also the need to manage this pandemic. So what are we doing as a community to have an outreach, to communicate with our elders in a language that they understand? So I'm hoping that right now the people are listening to me can understand me because, as I've mentioned many times before, English is a language that I'm the most proficient in. Right? So that's what we're going to work with. But also, I think it is important to speak to people in a way that they understand, whether it's linguistic or whether it's a cultural. Okay. Other than the outreach, what kind of work-life balance, schooling balance are we doing at home? So as you may know, I have a 13-year-old, I have a teenager at home who is still schooling online. So the idea is that during this crisis, we are still learning and we're trying really, really hard to manage some normality, if I will, some normality during these really trying times where we are still trying to maintain some sort of schooling for our students and for our children at home. Also, if you're working from home, what kind of work-life balance are you doing? How are we holding up and managing life indoor? Many of us are working indoors and trying to homeschool our children during this crisis. Is it really homeschooling? Because I read somewhere we are trying to homeschool in a crisis. So this is not like regular homeschooling. And a lot of people who homeschool their children have spoken up about this and said, guys, this is not homeschooling. We used to see other people. We used to go to the libraries. We used to go to the museums. We used to have outings. This isn't like the regular homeschooling, right? So we're trying to make some semblance of normality in this crisis. How do you make a distinction between the house and work without leaving the house setting? Oh, I have talked about that. Remember when I said earlier in the week, does anybody work in their bedroom? I have set up a desk area in my living room to be able to work. And I literally plant myself there in the morning after I eat breakfast and get my coffee and everything. And I just try to stay put. It is really difficult. Before staying indoors, I always used to leave to go to work, right? I just have a regular job to go to. But other than that, also when I had on the weekends things to write and things to grade, I would go to a coffee shop. My favorite place in the world, the library, is closed and I cannot deal. I know why it's closed, but I'm so heartbroken. My favorite place in the world, the library. So staying indoors and working has been super challenging for me. How has it been for you? Have you designated a physical space to resemble a workplace? How are you doing the mental switch of work and then home, right? So you can't just work all day. When do you just like say, now I'm going to switch to home mode? That switch for me used to be when I walk into the home, I'm home. Rest, relaxation, recharge. No more. So how are you guys faring? All right. Somebody said, I'm Somali ko hadal adan lama hadlaysin. We go. We just keep doing this all the time, you guys. You know, I hope we're not anyways, so reading some comments, heard so much about that movie, so I gotta watch it. I will send you the link, Abdul. All right, regarding that sexist job, that isn't uniquely Somali. Looking at all the top women anchors here in the States, a majority look like they were picked based on their looks. That is an excellent point that Sarah made right there. So is this not the news anchors? Is this not something that is just Somali specific, or is this something that's kind of like worldwide, that the women anchors are picked for their looks? I guess they just don't make the mistake of putting that in their job ad, right? Because that's just like, it's just begging to be sued, right? So here we're gonna like sue you for doing that because there's some sexual harassment and sexual discrimination laws in the books. But I guess you know, they just hire based on looks, because if you look at it, right? Have you guys ever watched Fox News? Not willingly, okay? I've not watched it willingly. I did some research. And yeah, it looks like they all basically look the same for the most part, right? Abdul Dahir said, I learned a new word, hubqat, right? So if you look in the dictionary, Somali Qamus Katat Firistit, there's a specific definition for hubqat, right? But we all know that we use words in a slang or sarbab way, right? هذا الكل حلو استعمالها يا سكلا. All right, so that will be the end of the weekly session then. Does anyone have any questions? The teacher in me cannot resist. Any questions? Going once? Going twice? So we're not going to do Isaqaba on like here. So what I'll do is on future weekly sessions, inshallah, I will try to have some guests about whatever topic at hand that we're going to talk about. But other than that, we're going to just keep it at me presenting the week's most pressing issues. All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Mani one accent, having one accent, never kill you. Hesay gan kain mama ba? Never day.